Have you ever felt like you just don't have enough time in the day? Yeah, me too. So, I have a super special guest for you guys today. She is an untime management strategist, and her name is Lissa Figgins. She is a former busyness owner who learned to unhurry her heart and release the need to control time, multitask, and always be doing. Now, as a scaling strategist, she helps busy Christian business owners grow their revenue and results by multiplying the 24 hours that she's been given, rather than trying to manage them. And when she's not helping women lead with focus and impact, you'll find her walking and talking, traveling and planning, reading and leading, with a dark coffee and a dark chocolate close by. And she's known for speaking one simple truth: you have time. Help me welcome Lissa Figgins to the show. If you're tired of juggling work, family, big business dreams, but long for the focus and courage to finally step out in obedience, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Lanisha, life coach and kingdom entrepreneur. I know what it takes to demolish fear and rise in bold identity while building a business that glorifies God and leaves a harvest that outlives you. Are you ready to dive in? Grab your journal and cup of joe because we're going straight from the secret place into strategy. It's time to build boldly. Welcome back to the Consecrated CEO podcast. Today I have a super special guest. She is near and dear to my heart. Her name is Lissa Figgins. I'm going to let her introduce herself. She has brought such value to my life and changed my life in many ways. And so I bring you Lissa Figgins.
Hey, I love this, Lanisha. It's so fun when God brings people together at the right time for the right reasons. And I'm so honored to be able to help have a conversation with your nurses. I just want to say I am not a nurse, but I did want to be a nurse. So my story is that was what my childhood dream was. I was going to grow up and be a nurse. I had a grandma who ran a labor and delivery floor. And I remember having a conversation with her one day, and she said to me, I had shared with her, I would get really queasy at the sight of blood. Others people's blood as well as my own. And I remember her saying, maybe you need to rethink the nursing venture. And so I ended up going into the classroom, which is it's a whole level of, needing to triage and figuring out, what matters and things like that as well. So I have juggled a lot of roles. While I was teaching, I also became a mom. I also had ministries I led, a business that I started, several iterations over time. So I get it when you've got a lot of different passions and callings and things like that are pulling on you. I'm now a mom of 3 who are out of the nest. So that does happen for those of you who still have younger ones at home. They're literally spread around the world. Grandma of a grandson who's about to turn 1. So yeah, I've lived in the tension of calling and capacity, right? Because I really truly see we all have the same 24 hours. And there have been seasons of my life where a lot was on my plate and I was just trying to be faithful and trying to get it all done and quietly exhausted and burning out over here in the corner because I could never stop doing. So yeah, I get it. What life might feel like for you as a nurse and someone who's trying to build a business and something else on the side.
Yeah, that is so good. Thank you for sharing that. You said quietly exhausted and like trying to get all the things done. And I feel like that is the epitome of what I feel like nurses do, but also moms. We just quietly get things done. We might be just feeling like we're drowning inside and we're in a boat with no paddle and we feel super exhausted. So I would love for you to talk to my nurses about the work that you do and how you help us to balance all the things. Like with me, especially doing the 12-hour shifts, you've been able to help me set aside more business time with that, that ROTI that you say, the return on time invested. And I would love for you to just talk to my nurses about that.
Yeah. Well, I would love to tell you how I didn't do it the right way. I always like to, this is one of those conversations that people either really love to lean into or they are like, whoa, she's the time girl. And I'm so messed up. I don't even want to talk. So
Yeah.
let me just take you back so you know where I'm coming from because my issues with time landed me in a doctor's office. And I remember the day I walked into this doctor's office to get some results. And honestly, I did not know how I had gotten there. But looking back now, right, and connecting the dots, I can see I've always been a doer. I've never known how to not be doing. I've always had a planner from back in grade school when you write down the assignments. I was the girl who would write them down, even if I already did them, just so I could cross it off and look accomplished. I've always had a to-do list. I've always had a plan, a goal, right? If somebody said you should do this, whether it was to grow, in my faith walk or in my family or in my business, I didn't make excuses. I just added it to the plate. And I'm sure as many of you can relate to that my time didn't change, right? And so all that constant doing really comes at a cost. I had to pick up my pace, right? I had to go faster, stay up, later, go to bed, get up earlier, those types of things. But really, the bigger cost was more what was going on inside. My value was being tied to my doing, to what I accomplished, to how many of those check boxes I actually got to that day. And then really, I would be in the room, but not really in the room. Do you know what I mean? I was that mom who, was quote playing with my kids. There's Barbies or Legos because I had two boys and a girl, so we had it all.
Yeah.
But I'm in my head, working on something or messaging a client or cleaning dust bunnies or reorganizing the toy bin and, all those things. And really, I ignored what my body was telling me that my time was becoming a problem. It started with like always this like angst in my stomach. You ever feel that? Like you just kind of always feel
Yeah.
like you're like, ugh. Or like tightness in my shoulders, guilt in my head. Of course, I think we experience that a lot, especially as moms and business owners and, other roles that we have. And then
Yeah.
literally a lump in my throat. So I was busy. So of course, I don't have time for this. I ignored it for over a year. And then I started wondering if something was growing because I had had a cancer scare in my thyroid a couple of years before. So I finally went and saw
Yeah.
the specialist. We tried a bunch of different things. Nothing worked. So we finally said, I'm going to scope you. So this is the day I came to his office. He sits me down. He says, Lissa, good news. There is nothing growing in your throat, but you have hystericus globus. Now, when I say that, your audience probably knows immediately what that is. I had no clue. I'm sitting there looking at him like, what in the world did you just say? So he, of course, goes on to explain. Globus, like a globe, you have this feeling of a ball, and hystericus, and he starts swirling his finger next to his head like you're crazy. He's like, you just have anxiety from all that you're doing, and I'm happy to prescribe you a pill.
Oh. Mhm.
Now, I am not against mental health, and having medication for things, but I knew for me that a pill was going to numb what God was trying to heal.
Yeah.
Right. And
Amen.
it was literally that doctor calling me crazy was my breaking point or my God getting my attention. I wish I could say I walked out of the office and everything was changed in an instant. It wasn't. Doers die hard,
Yeah.
but it did change in that moment. And God finally started getting my attention, started showing me my busyness wasn't a disordered calendar. Because if that was where the problem was, if it was that I needed more time blocks or I needed more color coding or I needed a better to-do list, or more timers set on my phone, then I wouldn't be going back to the same place over and over and over again. He started showing me my busyness was really a disordered heart. And
Mm.
as I dug a little bit deeper, and this is the hard part, but this is the necessary part. Everybody wants to jump to, Lisa, give me the time hacks. Give me the planner. I've got a planner that I've created so people can buy the planner and I'll teach you all kinds of great things in it, but it starts in your heart. Because in my case, I was chasing my not enoughness. My time wasn't enough is where it started. Then my doing wasn't enough. Then I wasn't enough. It's like this slippery slope I think a lot of us go down. And so it took slowing down, right? It took learning to unhurry my heart, to let go of my addiction, to always wanting to control time, and for good reason, right? I mean, I think when you have good, important things to do, like you want to be intentional. But again, my value was tied, in the wrong things. And God started saying, wait, your value is in who you are, not what you do. And I actually learned to let go of the stuff that wasn't mine to do, and began doing less and seeing more fruit. And so now, like, I'm on mission to help women who feel really busy to
Mm.
approach time in a whole different way. Because whether you're nursing in your nursing role, or you're in your business role, or a ministry role, or a family role, you still get the same 24 hours in a day that everybody else does.
Right.
Right? That's
Mhm.
what I call the great equalizer. But the great differentiator is the outcome of that time. And, most people see time as their biggest obstacle. But instead, I really believe it's the biggest opportunity. It's what God lays in front of us every single day. Like he laid manna in front of the children of Israel. That was exactly what they needed. They complained, they compared, didn't change how much he gave them. It was still just what they needed. And, this is what allowed them to not only be sustained, but to do what they were called to in that season. And I think we need to start there with how we're looking at our time. And then that's going to drive how we use our time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. I was listening when you said that the value is in, or when you felt like the value was in what you did as far as like your checklist and getting those things done. That really relates to nursing too, because we also have checklists through the day that we have to get certain things done. And then when you're giving report to the night shift and you're like, oh, I didn't get this done and this done and that done, then you feel bad because then it
Feel
goes onto
less
their
than.
plate. You're passing these things onto the next plate. And so you feel bad about it. And sometimes it's really, like, oh, I really wanted to wash that patient's hair today, but I never got to it because you really wanted to love on them. But then you're pulled in all these different directions all day long, depending on, the patient or the family member or whatever it is that you're dealing with. If you're running to imaging, all these things. But those checklists at the end of the day do bring nurses that sense of fulfillment. But even at home, when you have a checklist and you don't get it all done, that also we feel less fulfilled, and then we're striving and we're chasing and we're not abiding, right? At that time we're striving. And
Right.
so I love that you brought that up. And I want you to talk about a little bit about the roadie in our lives, in our business, and just kind of defining what ROTI is, because most people don't know. It's return on
Sure.
time invested. But yeah, I'd love for you to talk about that and why it's a need for us as Christian women business owners. How would this benefit, the nurses that want to build something outside the bedside?
Yes. Well, one piece of the story that I didn't get to, I just want to share real quickly.
Yeah.
So, my business is called Redeem Her Time. And that
Mhm.
was literally born in the pew because I walked into church another Sunday, asked a friend, "How was your week?" And you know what she said? "Oh, busy, just staying busy," with that like smile plastered on her face and that knowing look in her eyes. And I remember sitting down in the pew that day going, "Really, Lord? Is this really what you have for us? Just to be busy our entire lives and hope that it made some difference?" And so it was that day that he really brought me to Ephesians 5:15 through 16, that says, "Look carefully how you walk." We have to pay attention, as a nurse does, right? You got to pay attention where you're walking, not as unwise, but as wise. So
Mhm.
now we have to make some decisions. Redeeming the time, or some versions say making the best use of it, because the days are evil. Because, there is, so much around us that wants to pull at our time and attention. And I believe that's one of the number one places that the enemy loves to go, because when he can keep us busy and distracted, we're of no threat to him and no use to the kingdom. So this is why it's so important that, especially as believers, we look at our ROTI. So like you said, ROTI is return on time invested, ROTI, right? How many of you know the term ROI?
Right. Yeah.
Right? Like if you were making any kind of financial investment, you are thinking about the ROI. You are looking at it, even if it's not daily. Some people I know are checking those numbers daily, but maybe once a month, maybe once a quarter, hopefully at least once a year, or maybe you're paying somebody to look for you, right? Because we want to say, when I invest my money in this way, what is the return on that? And that information is very helpful. And we all know that the market goes up and down and up and down. So you don't pull things, the minute it looks like it's going down. Sometimes we have to give it some time. But over time, if you can see that something is not producing a good ROI, then you're going to make
Mhm.
that's going to inform some decisions. Do I continue investing here and give it more time, or do I take it out and put it somewhere else? Right? Well, time is our number one asset. Unlike money, that if you do get a bad investment, you can make more. We can't get back time that was poorly invested.
Right.
Now, that I'm not saying that to be a guilt burden on you, but just to say, yes, let's look carefully. Let's choose wisely with where we are investing our time. And the way you can tell is what is the fruit that it is producing.
Yeah.
Because every investment that you make of time, good or bad, is producing fruit. So is that fruit, is the ROTI taking you in the direction that you want to go and grow and where God is calling you, or is it taking you in the other direction? Right? And so we have
Yeah.
to stop sometimes, because I think we just spend time, right? You would
Hmm.
not be very good if you were spending money all day long and you never look at your bank account balance, right? And then of course you're going to go to spend money one day and there isn't going to be any. And how many of you feel that way about your time? I'm spending time all day long, not really paying attention to what it's producing. And then I want to give time to something and it just isn't there. And so we have to stop and measure that in order to then say, okay, how do I then decide moving forward how I'm going to invest my time? And you want to know one of the number one places that people spend their time? I know it's no surprise, but it's this device that follows us around like an
I
extra
know.
appendage.
Yeah.
So the first thing is you have to understand that you do have time. That's one of the first shifts I help people make. Stop
Yeah.
saying you don't have time. That's not true. You actually do have time. And if you ever don't believe yourself, open up your screen time on your phone, look at that number, actually read that number out loud and ask yourself, the average person is 4 hours and 37 minutes a day. That's just average, which means some of you are less, but some of you are double. What do you have to show for that kind of time?
Yeah.
Right? And that doesn't mean you throw this thing out and you never, give it any time, because of course it does a lot of really great things for us, including things that are health related. But, right, am I looking at the fruit that's being produced of the way that I'm investing my time? And so then ROTI starts shifting the question from, did I survive the day? Did I get to the end of my checklist? To,
Right.
did I invest time in what mattered? Did I invest time in what's going to multiply? And so once you first start with that place of okay, I do have time, that next question we want to shift to is not just what time is it, because then again, we're probably reactive, right, to what the clock is saying, because we inevitably feel behind, but what is it time for? And I'm sure as a nurse, you have to ask that question, right? You
Yeah.
and I had this conversation on my podcast about triage, right? You're going to have to ask the question, what is it time for? And one of the ways that you're able to determine that is saying, what are the priorities, right now? And this then is what's going to get my time and focus. Because if I don't, then it may have, severe consequences, especially in the industry that you're in. But the same thing happens in your home or when you're working on your business, right? If we're jumping around from one thing to the next, every ring, ding, ping, every shiny object and squirrel, we are
Yeah.
digitally distracted, we're mentally distracted, we're everything distracted, then we don't really get much of anywhere. I call that being a busyness owner. You're on the hamster wheel of doing a lot of things,
Yeah.
but not getting anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you said about the fruit. I learned from a particular person in ministry that was teaching about being a fruit inspector. And so really studying the fruit of what you're doing. What is the fruit of what you're doing and where you're investing your time? That's really, really important. And you saying you have time, at the end of your emails, I always see that you have time and it just rings in my head every time I think that I don't have time. I automatically go, it's like a neural pathway that was like, it was created after I saw your emails. I'm like, I have time. I have time. And I keep telling myself I have time. And, as far as like triage, really that triage that I do, the Kingdom Triage framework, works really well with the framework that you have because I can, triage my days and my schedule. I have the days that I do my 12-hour shifts, and then I have my days where I'm high productivity and I'm using the framework that you gave me, breaking down the day into certain zones and then doing things in those zones, but knocking out the big things first and then all the little things that can come later, but really making sure that I'm not just doing a bunch of things to say, oh, I'm busy. I did all these things. I checked off all these things on the list. Did I move the needle? Did I move
Yes.
forward? And so the frameworks are super, super important. I mean, God gives us those frameworks so that we can share with others. And so that was amazing. I want to talk a little bit about the solution and how, as far as like creating these pockets of time outside nursing, the way that
Mhm.
you helped me, but just something that you can share with my nurses about if they're juggling school or a number of things like kids sports and homeschool and all those things, because I juggle a lot of these things. And so I know that my nurses want to maximize their time and be intentional in pretty much everything that they do. But I would love for you to just share some practical steps that we can take or think through if we want to build a business outside of nursing.
Yeah, I love this question because there are things we can do, which is the good news. I don't. It doesn't matter where you are right now in your business, where you are in your in your health, in a relationship. Like where you are is the consequence, good or bad, of how you've chosen to invest or not invest time in that area up till now. So
Hmm.
don't let it be the shoulda, woulda, coulda, blame and guilt and shame and things like that. Let that be an encouragement. That means if I want to grow in this area, all I'm doing then is focusing on where I'm investing moving forward. And here's where we come back to that, if we all had this in a container, right? So like I've got a jar here that I drink out of, right? We all have the same 24 hours, but how you
Yeah.
fill it is what's going to change things. And so the first principle I want to talk about is what I call order determines capacity. I love doing this illustration where I've got a jar of Skittles and I've got a container and I say, this is your time. I've got a jar of Skittles and a bowl of oranges, right? And what tends to happen is the Skittles start filling first, right? And so I pour the Skittles in. This is all the random things that kind of are ring ding ping are coming up, in our day. And it gets to a little bit over halfway, and we're like, wait, I want to have time for the oranges. We start putting in, an orange, our faith walk, that family relationship, that friendship, the business we want to work on, the career we have. You can fit maybe 3 or 4 in, and then you can see it's going over the top of the jar. And if I try to put any more in, they start falling on the floor. So what I
Hmm.
do is I reset the whole thing. I say, okay, the same size jar, because you can't change your 24 hours. No matter how much you want the extra hour, you don't get it unless it's daylight savings time, and that doesn't really change your life. But anyway, so then we put the oranges in first, and I was like, I get a chuckle out of people. I like show them the jar with the oranges, all 8 oranges in it, and I'm like, look, it all fits. And they look at me like, Lissa, you don't understand my life. I have Skittles in my life, and I go, okay. I take that same thing of Skittles and I start pouring. And I keep pouring until every single one of those Skittles is also in the jar and there's a gap. It does not even go over the top because
Wow.
those Skittles just kind of fill in around the oranges.
Hmm.
And I teach this concept called order determines capacity.
Yeah.
Order determines capacity. So if your schedule is ordered around urgency, right, you will always feel behind. If you're always reacting to all the Skittles all day long and never really getting you see the bowl of oranges there and you're like, and I really want that to fit in here, but you're always going to feel like you're over capacity, like you're behind, like you're less than in some way. But when you start saying, here are my oranges in this season, and I'm going to give these priority first. Now, that does not necessarily mean it has to happen the first thing in your day, although one of the things you and I have talked about is we need those refill moments in the beginning of our day and the
Mm-hmm.
end of our day to fill up body, mind, spirit. So some of those things may happen first in your day, but I'm putting them into my plan for the day and or the week first, right? That's
That's
what
good.
priority looks like. And everything else can just kind of fill around that.
Yeah.
And here's now where you stop living in constant reaction mode because you're pre-deciding what matters. What are my oranges? And you're putting those oranges in your day or your week first, right? So that way, yes, the Skittles are going to come, they're going to happen. It's okay. They're fruity, they're fun, they're distracting, like but here's also where, we have to like make some wise intentional decisions around those oranges because we can't do it all. Even if you want to, in this season, you can't do it all. So what's the one God-given focus for this season? Not, five different dreams or three different side hustles. Like I really teach something called the one thing focus. Like what's one thing that I really want to make sure this thing gets some intentional time around there. So that's the first one is order determines capacity. You
Yeah.
do have time. Let's be more intentional about what we're allowing to fit, what we're putting in first, so that there is room for everything that matters.
That's really, really good. Were you done? You were done with that part? Okay.
Yes, yeah, that first one. Yeah, I thought I'd pause before I go to
Oh,
principal
yeah.
too. Just yeah, give you
Sure.
guys a break. Let me have a
Yeah,
break.
yeah, no worries. I love this, man. It's like it's just so much value. It's like all of these nuggets, and it's like putting all of these nuggets into a sack and walking off with it. It's so valuable. So I just love the way that your breakdown is oranges and Skittles. It's so unique. It's so God-given. It's not something
It's
that
way better
everyone.
than River Rocks and Pebbles. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
That's boring,
literally.
right?
It's like, oh, I like oranges, I like Skittles, and they're colorful. But it helps us because we tend to rabbit trail. So, but I love that you said the God-given focus in this season because there's so many things that we want to do. There's so many different businesses that we want to have, or just dreams in particular. And so, really narrowing that down to what is your God-given focus this season is so, so important. And I know for me it's really been about the podcast. And there's a number of things that I've wanted to do, but the Lord told me to focus on the podcast and focus on loving my nurses and really teaching them how to get to the place that I've gotten, and really have that peace that I have. Even though I still have a lot of things on my plate, I still have to, I'm learning too. I still have to, step back and say, okay, Lord, take me back. I can tell when I start to get a little flustered because I can tell in my spirit and I'm like, all right, I got to sit down. Or he'll just lay me out and I'll just be exhausted and have to take a 4 hour nap or something. But,
Yeah. It's always
sometimes,
better when we can be proactive versus have to be reactive to that,
yes,
right?
exactly. So that's why I love that you said that because there's so many times that we're reactive to things, but when we're walking in peace, the craziest thing could happen. A flat tire, you're driving, you're like, okay, well, we'll just call the tow truck. Like it's not a whole, oh, this is ruining my whole day. It's like your reaction to that really shows where you are in your faith too.
Sure,
And
sure.
yeah,
And it's
so I love.
okay if you have a messy day. It's okay. I just want to say that because I feel like sometimes we tend to want to do it all right? Or how many people are, perfectionists out there. Maybe you would say it, maybe you wouldn't, and so sometimes we just kind of even either give up in defeat or just let ourselves off the hook, right? Like
Yeah.
why do I bother? Because it's not going to happen. There are going to be so many Skittles today, but I guarantee you start by identifying your oranges first,
Hmm.
start putting them into your time first. You will see a difference and a shift there.
Yeah,
So the second
absolutely.
principle is around where we put them. And this is where I teach about establishing your time anchor zones. So we all know time management 101 is time blocking. I actually believe that time management is actually limiting your growth because to manage literally means to keep contained or under control, right? So it's like I'm trying to keep everything fitting in this nice, neat box, which feels really good on paper, but there's no room for expansion and growth and response to things that come up
Yeah.
and happen and things like that. It literally becomes a game of whack-a-mole all day long, right? And then we don't have anything more to show for it. It's a fear response to time getting away. I'm trying to keep it, managed so that I can keep it under control so I don't feel like my minutes are, leaking out, which is not a bad thing. But if we look at, even the parable Jesus taught of the parable of the talents,
Hmm.
that one guy, remember he went and buried his talents? First of
Yep.
all, don't feel bad for him. He had 20 years' wages. Take what you earned last year times 20. He had a lot,
Yeah,
but
he
he was
did.
afraid. He was afraid it was going to get away. And so what did he do? He buried it. But what did he hear from the master when he came back was like, you wicked and lazy servant. Like, let me
Yeah.
give that to somebody else. The other two guys, They somehow invested it. We don't know what they did. They probably put some in the bank. They probably did some planting and sowing, or sowing and reaping. They probably did some trading and bartering, investing in things, whatever. They doubled it,
Yeah.
right? Because they understood they were to be stewards of it, which is about expansion. So when we're thinking about now getting into our calendar, the boxes look nice, but they keep us like this, right?
Right.
And so, like, how do we create these time anchor zones? Think about an anchor. If your boat, if you've invested some money in it, now if it's just like a little wooden rowboat, you may not care as much, but most people are spending a couple $1,000s on a boat. We don't want this like crashing into somebody else's dock or like drifting off downriver or wherever. So we attach an anchor to it.
Yeah.
But that anchor has to have a little bit of give because the wind and the waves will come. And so this is really what we're doing is, an anchor will keep a boat within a defined space, but it still leaves room for movement, right? How many of us have blocked ourselves so tightly in that there isn't any room? And what happens when life happens? And then, when one block gets off, it literally becomes like, pile up on the rush hour. So I teach time anchor zones that help answer the question, what is it time for? And as you've already alluded to it, there are two types. There's a refill. It is time to pour into body, mind, spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And there are pour outs. When am I serving my family and household, and or when am I serving in my work time or my focus business time? And when we can get really clear around where those time anchor zones are in our day and then ultimately in our week, we eliminate the multitasking. We eliminate the guilt of like, oh, I should be doing this because like I think a lot of us, like, when you're on your shift, you're thinking about all the business stuff you should be doing, and then you're going to be distracted, right? So what if you're like, wait, it's not time for that. I've actually got a time anchor zone for that tomorrow, and I'm going to give that thing a full 2 hours of my unattended, my total focus. So I don't have to worry about that right now. I can focus on here, and that's how you can start building out some of those like pockets of time. You're going to build your business around your work schedule, around your family and household things. And it really helps us to create some rhythms because I think a lot of things in our life are repeatable. Most of them are not, day to day. Most things have rhythms or we can create rhythms around it. And that takes a lot of stress of decision fatigue and things like that off of us. And it helps us protect our focus and our margin, right? When we're protecting our margin and we have the space to make sure that we're refilling so we don't burn out, will be much more effective because when you do get laid out because of burnout, it will also always cost you more in every area, your time, your money, your emotions, your everything. So when we have those time anchor zones clearly defined and then we can put those oranges in there, now it starts feeling like, things are moving in a rhythm instead of it being, either no plan or way too tight of a plan.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up the time anchor zones versus the time management because that was one of my questions. I have learned so much from you that I've replaced. I used to think, okay, I have to manage my time, but also I used to say, manage your focus. And that's really important because that goes with exactly what you're saying with the time anchor zones. Because when I'm at work, I'm not thinking about all the business things. I used to do that, but now I don't because I know that I have time set aside for it already. So my full focus is going to be on that patient and everything that that patient needs, or, the 4 or 5 patients, wherever I'm at, because I float around to different departments. But I can truly focus on that day and not worry about, oh, I'm not going to have time to work on my business, or I'm not going to have time to, make these phone calls and doctor's appointments and all these things, because there is a time for everything and everything is set apart. And so I'm just truly like blown away by the framework. And it's just all these little changes that make such a big difference in our day. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, share your last principle.
Yeah. So that first one was pre-deciding your priorities, your oranges, right? The
Right.
second one was pre-deciding your time zones. So even two protected 45-minute, time anchors per week to build work on your business is going to build momentum instead of feeling like I'm, one week I'm doing something and next week I'm not doing anything and, kind of the hit and miss or what I call the start, stop, sprint cycles that we get on. Right. And you and we just went to strategy session together, mapping out your home day plan. What does my day
Yeah.
at home look like? What are the priorities and the oranges, for that time? What are the time anchor zones of that day? Where do things go? So that way, you feel like you're able to be present to what matters. So principle 3 is really evaluating everything by that ROTI, right? ROTI. Really taking time to pause. I think way too many people crash land into Monday. They pray to make it till Friday and have gotten something done in between that mattered and was going to move the needle. So I think we do need to intentionally plan some time in to evaluate the ROTI. Did this multiply or did it manage or maintain things? Did the way that I spent this time align with my assignments? Or was it just some obligation or expectation that I was feeling? Or maybe it was because I was comparing myself when I was scrolling Instagram or things like that. Is this guilt driven or is this God driven? Right?
Mm.
So you need that time, especially when you've got multiple things you're juggling. It could even be 30 minutes to literally sit down with maybe a journal and your planner and get into your heart first. Hey, what have I been treasuring with my time? Because you can tell what someone's priorities are by looking in two places: their bank account and their calendar,
Yeah.
right? Where are you in spending your resources? But again, we have to look at, and what is the return on that, especially if you want to grow a business. I think way too many of us, this is me back in the day. If you told me to do it, I did it. I checked the box over and over and over again, and it wasn't producing results. But I'm like a dog with a bone. You said to do it, so we have to get to that point where we actually go, wait, is this producing results? Especially when I am giving this amount of time to this,
Yeah.
you got to be strategic around how you're investing that time. And then it allows us to really make some wise decisions. I call my clients CEOs, Christ empowered operators of your life and business,
That's
right?
good.
Like he doesn't do it for us. He literally does not lay out the plan and put it in our phone and say, okay, at this time you're doing this today, and this time this, and this time this. I think he wants us to actually make decisions with the wisdom that he's given us. That doesn't mean knowing all the information. It means, how do I make the best decision with the information I have? Obviously, if it's against something in scripture, we shouldn't be doing it. But outside of those parameters, I think we have a lot of options that we can choose from. And so we have to be intentional with it. And this is what stewardship does. Stewardship recognizes this resource, this asset doesn't belong to me.
Yeah.
If I were to hand over like my car to you while I was going on vacation, and maybe it was a really fun sports car, which it's not, but let's pretend it was, right? And you're like, yay, Lissa's out of town for 2 weeks. You would take care of that car. You probably wouldn't leave it out in the driveway if it's going to rain, especially if it was a convertible. Let's pretend it's a convertible. You wouldn't be like, jet setting down, the main highway or the backcountry road or whatever.
Right.
You would always be thinking, wait, this is Lissa's. She said I can drive it while she's gone, so I'm going to enjoy it, but I'm also going to take care of it with her in mind.
Right.
So translate that into your time, right? Your
Yeah.
time is this asset that God has given you. He could have whisked us to heaven the minute he saved us. He didn't. He gives us time instead, right? And time is the gift to walk with him, to become more like him, to build the kingdom. So we have to approach it as stewards, saying, what would the master, what would the owner, right, of the kingdom of, what, as Jesus tells so many parables, right? Like I was in one today about the vineyard, right? And the owner of a vineyard and what he was doing. What would he want me to do with this asset? And the goal of a steward is expansion. This is where ROTI comes in. It's not just maintenance. It's not survival. It is, how am I expanding the outcome of this asset? And here's where we have to start evaluating the low ROTI commitments and the high ROTI investments. And it doesn't mean every single one we're going to get it right. It's okay. We just pay attention, we ask good questions, we get curious, and then we're able to make really informed CEO decisions about where to invest our time and where not to.
Yeah, that's so good. I love how your framework also is very methodical. It helps us to be methodical in our building, just the same way that God was such a methodical creator. He was very intentional about that 7 days when he, created the heavens and the earth. And each day he added more detail. And if we apply that to our lives, that is our framework. That was him teaching us how to build and how to create. Take your time each day. He started with really big things, so the heavens and the earth. But as he went on, it filled in all of those details. And so that is how I like view the Skittles right now. I feel like I just got this from Holy Spirit. So I just see like all those little details and those all being little Skittles that come later on. But the big thing is those oranges, and putting that together. That's so
And
awesome.
notice, the first day on the job, what did Adam and Eve do? They rested.
Yeah.
Their first day was Sabbath rest. Like, I love that it's not, I'm working for the weekend or whatever your day off is, because I know nurses don't often get, the typical weekend off,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, is it I'm starting from rest or I'm working for rest? And there is a
Yeah.
whole different rhythm, right? When we are actually leaning into the way that he's created us and created creation and our bodies to work from rest, not for rest. And then we're prioritizing those things first, because if we are not making time for that, there will not be time for it.
Yeah.
If we're leaving it up to chance or hoping there's something left over,
Yeah, starting from rest. You got to put that on a shirt. That's good.
right?
So, so, well, I just want you to share one piece of encouragement for the nurse or the woman that just feels like she's so overwhelmed right now. She's bleeding out. She's like, I need somebody to hold pressure here. I don't know if I'm ever going to have enough time to do all the things.
Yeah, yeah. I think it would be that reminder of like it's okay. You're not failing. You're not behind.
Mhm.
You're likely feeling overcapacity because you're letting everyone or everything else fill your time. And
Yeah.
then there's probably not much left for the God dreams or for yourself. Um, I would say God never asked you to carry everything that people want to put on you. So, how do you give a best yes? I love the book by Lisa Turkhurst, Best Yes, if you haven't read it.
Mhm.
Really good book. How do I say give my best yeses, which also means giving healthy no's, and remembering that like your capacity is created through order. You do have
Yeah.
time, right? You want to start asking that question, what is it time for? And yes, you can ask that question in a crisis moment when you're feeling scattered and pulled in way too many directions. It's a great time to just pause and say, okay, I have time. What is
Yeah.
it time for right now? But better yet, right? Like do it before before the day starts. Do it
Yeah.
before the week starts and have at least, your plan will not execute 100%. That's okay. That's life. But guaranteed, it will look way different when you at least have a plan to work from and to also go back to than if you
Hmm.
just kind of throw up your hands and say, well, yeah, I tried. So, yeah, I would just encourage you with that reminder you have time. And then just ask the question, what is it time for right now? And let me just focus there and be intentional and purposeful and present to that thing.
Yeah, that's so good. And I love that my podcast goes out on a Monday. So at the start of this, listen, you got the whole week. So plan your
Right?
week. You're going to listen to this on a Monday and you've got the whole week. Plan it out. Well, also, we could talk all day. We've literally only scratched the surface, but I noticed that you also have this incredible planner. I'd love for you to talk about that and any other resources that you have.
Yeah, yeah. So the Redeem Her Time Planner, it's beautiful. I get comments all the time about what it looks like
Mm.
and the intentional detail that I put into it, with the paper and all the things. It's undated, which means you're not behind. How many of you have bought a planner and it was already partway through the year, or then you like it got buried on your desk and you
Yep.
forgot about it, and then you came
Yep.
back to it and you're like, shoot, I wasted all this.
Me.
It's
Yeah.
undated, so you can pick it up anytime. If it accidentally gets dust covered, then you can pick it back up again. It comes with a digital course, and we really dive into this whole idea of stewardship,
Mhm.
and starting from the heart. But I truly believe, especially in a digital age, you cannot really see how your time flows when you're scrolling your Google Calendar. Now, it is very
Yeah.
helpful if you're on the go to be able to see something in real time, to be able to check something. But there's something that happens when you write. Your hand connects to your head, connects to your heart, right? And this is going to help you make intentional decisions ahead of time about where you're wanting to invest your time. And then each week, evaluating your ROTI. In fact, I have a question here. It says, what did I treasure with my time this week? Right? So I'm going to have you look at where did your time go and thinking about the ROTI of it,
Yeah.
and you've got a place to identify those time anchors and to make sure that there's time for the things that matter. So, yeah, you can find the planner at redeemhertime.com and just click on the planner tab to be able to find it there. And then I've got a little gift I want to give your audience, which
Oh,
is a little
amazing.
piece of what you and I worked through.
Yay.
So that this might be helpful. It's a time anchor zone resource that's going to help you build an impactful day, right? Because nobody just wants to get through a day that I just was reactive all day long. I want to actually know that my time was making an impact because it was intentional, right? So what I'm going to walk you through there is okay. How do I start determining my oranges and my skittles? How do I start learning how to like flesh out those principles we talked about? The order determines capacity. Then my time anchor zones, what does that look like, right? Paying attention to my ROTI. This is not another to-do list that's going to make you
Yeah.
feel behind. I'm going to teach you this whole new framework that you've been talking about how do I look at what fills my time, and how I'm creating some healthy boundaries around the time and some light structure, so that way it's reducing the guilt, you're reclaiming your time, you
Yeah.
have way more peace and presence. And literally you'll find that happen the day you download it. So you can go to redeemhertime.com/anchor. So that's for the time anchoring method. Redeemhertime.com/anchor. Grab that tool, start working through that. I even put a little mini training with it as well, just to help walk you through what's in there. And let's start shifting how we approach time. It is not your biggest obstacle, it's your greatest opportunity. That means we want to be intentional around how we're stewarding it.
Amen. That is so good. And we love free gifts. So I'll definitely be putting that in the show notes. I will send it out in an email blast as well so that everybody can get a hold of that. It is so valuable. And I just want to share with my listeners, look, I have that and it has changed my life just from that simple step and working through it and actually doing the work and taking time. Oh my gosh, it bought me back so much time. So it's going to change your life. Is there anywhere that they can find you, like a community and obviously
Yeah.
your podcast?
Yes, the Redeem Her Time podcast. Come on over. We talk about faith and time and business and life and how all these things intersect together. So definitely come find the Redeem Her Time podcast. And then I do have a free community
Okay.
that you can also link to from my website, redeemhertime.com, where we are, yeah, we're talking about the actual real life of living that out and what does that look like and how do we focus and not get distracted by all the things that are going on around us, and how do we respond when life happens and unexpected things come, and how do we really walk by faith with all of these things. So I also have a free business directory inside there. So if you do have a business or you're building a business, I give
Mm.
permission to talk about your business any day of the week because I'm over the Facebook groups that put you in timeout if you say it on the wrong day and the wrong
I know.
time. If God gave it to you to do, you should be talking about it. And I want you to, to be able to reach other people who could be blessed by what you do. So yeah, when you join the community, we'll get you connected in the directory as well.
Yeah, I love that you offer that. I love the community, and I still got to put my thing in there. But look, I love that community. Come join her community. And also, I am just want to thank you for your time. I want to honor you and just blessing us with your wisdom and your insight. And I know that so many women are going to be blessed by this episode and our conversation. And so, in closing, I would love to have you just say a prayer over my listeners. I would love for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the best way to spend our time, right? Go to
Yeah.
the author of time
Yes.
who controls it
Amen.
all. So let's do that. Lord, we just thank you for the gift of time. More importantly, we thank you for the gift of your presence. I thank you for calling us into a relationship with you. I thank you for calling us into these roles, whether it's in their nursing career, whether it's in a business or a ministry that you're causing them to grow, whether it's their roles in their home or their community and their church. Lord, I thank you for these gifts from you, and I thank you for the gift of time. I thank you that you do give us 24 hours every day and that it is more than enough because you are not a less than or a just barely enough God. You are the exceedingly abundantly beyond what we could ask or imagine
Amen.
kind of God. And so, Lord, I just pray for that woman who's listening today who's feeling overwhelmed, who's feeling overcapacity, who's feeling overextended, who's maybe really discouraged and just thinking, I need more time or I need to get better at managing my time. I just pray that you would just bring truth from our conversation today to her mind when those thoughts are coming up. She
Yeah.
would be
Amen.
reminded that she has time, that there's purpose in her time, that she can be present to her time and to what it's time for. Lord, I just pray that you'll give her wisdom as she makes decisions, as she pays attention to how she walks, as she chooses the wise path in how she invests that time, as she evaluates the fruit of it, the ROTI. I pray that you would give her eyes to see what she needs to see and help her to know what she needs to know to make the best decision that she can. And Lord, I just pray for the grace to cover her for the days that she doesn't, for
Yeah.
the days that it feels like everything just went out the window or something came up that threw everything off in such a way that she feels defeated. God, I thank you that nothing is beyond your grasp, that you're ultimately the one that is over all of our time. And I thank you that one day we will be with you in eternity, where we won't be looking at clocks or calendars or
Yes.
planners or
Amen.
checklists. It'll just be time to
Amen.
worship you, and that's going to be a great thing. So may we live that out here on earth as well. So thank you for your presence and your purpose, and for the time you give us today. In Jesus' name, Amen.
Amen. Amen. That was beautiful. And I am truly just blessed by today. And I look forward to having you on the show again. I hope you have a
All
great
right, would
day.
love to do it.
All right. Talk to you soon. Well, I hope y'all had your notebooks and pens today because she gave so many nuggets. I mean, I can't even count. And let me tell you something, the Time Anchor Zone guide that she is giving away for free, that has absolutely changed my life personally. And it has totally helped me to be able to manage all the things that I have on my plate right now and to be able to steward accordingly. Because I want to be able to steward everything that the Lord has given me. And we want to be good stewards, right? We want to operate in excellence. And so I just wanted to make sure that you guys go to redeemhertime.com/anchor to get that freebie. And I also want to encourage you all. A lot of the times when you're starting to think about doing something outside of nursing, it's not easy because we're just so accustomed to that security and having job security. Like, no matter where we go as nurses, we can get a job. There's just no issue getting a job for us. But is that really what you want to do? Like, do you want to clock in and clock out for the rest of your life? Or do you want to just be like a PRN princess, keep your skills, and do something else that you're passionate about and spend tons of time with your family and travel and do all the fun things? Or do you eventually want to exit nursing? And so these are all the things that I help work with you through in coaching, and kind of just going through these thoughts, right? And just really having these scintillating conversations and also moving you forward. Let's move the needle forward if you do have a dream or a passion or a plan that you want to execute, but you don't quite know how to do it. And so you can come and visit www.theconsecratedceo.com/coaching to learn more about coaching with me. If you need a community, come and join us in the Nurse to CEO community on Facebook, and that's facebook.com/groups/Christian women entrepreneurs. And other than that, until next time, build with the King. Hey, Kingdom friend, I pray today's episode stirred something in your spirit. If it did, would you take a few seconds to share it with a few women who you know this would resonate with? And if you haven't yet, I would be honored if you could leave a quick review. It helps this message reach more women who are ready to rise. All right, time to strap myself down and laser focus on all the things. No squirrel zone. I'll meet you back here next week for another episode. Until then, keep building boldly.